Hey, thanks for pressing play on Complexities Podcast. You're the bee's knees. This podcast is meant to be a catalyst for healing. We hope that our words will be thought-provoking, not ego-provoking. Although I will poke fun at your ego. We'll also be discussing trauma and abuse of all kinds, neglect and mental health concerns and conditions, sex, drugs, rock and roll, alcohol, suicide, and probably religions and politics. It's likely that we'll cover most topics that have been labeled as triggering.
We are not doctors of anything. We can't treat or diagnose you, and we are definitely not a substitute for treatment of any kind.
Welcome to Complexities Podcast. I'm Miss Complexities, and this is my partner in all things, Patty Face.
Patty Face.
So Patty Face, I'm going to do a surprise tangent.
Wait. Can I
Introduce the episode?
Yes,
by
this
all
is
means.
episode number 3. What's my trauma type? Part 1.
Indeed. That's the name. So as you might have noticed, I'm like really on edge right now. And it's kind of like a lot of little things.
I've noticed, but the listeners haven't noticed because they just started listening.
I was talking to you.
Oh, okay.
They wouldn't notice because they can't see me.
They cannot.
And I haven't been bitching at them.
Yes.
So a lot of little things, but you're to blame for this because you were the straw that broke this tangent's back.
Great. Putting me on the spot in front of thousands of people.
So I've seen a lot of like posts about this, and then today I was at an appointment and the news was on, and nothing ever ends well for me when I have to like hear the news. And then as soon as I heard the news, then you wanted to talk about this.
I'm sorry.
So no, it's fine. It's just like I didn't want to address it because it's like the cliche topic. Everybody's talking about this. Everybody's making a show about it. Everybody's making a video about it. Everybody's making a blog about it. And I don't like being like everybody. And I don't know. I just don't think that everybody needs to weigh in on it unless they have something to say. And I guess now it's gotten to the point where I have something to say. So the topic for my tangent is suicide. Suicide. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Oh, so much better.
I don't know. I'm just really tired of people posting like the hotline number and memes about being nice to each other because you don't know what the fuck people are going through. And then on the news, they were talking about how anxiety medication and medication in general can like make a chemical reaction in your brain that makes you want to commit suicide. And it's like, really, nobody's talking about the fucking real problem, the real issue. I want to see a fucking news story about that. Like,
yeah.
Where's that news story? Where are we going to get to the root issue of why people in our society do the things that they do?
So you were hearing this on the news today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
While you were sitting at the dealership getting the oil change?
Yeah. So, and I just was like, and I was reading about what we were going to talk about, and I just like lost it because I just can't. I can't anymore. So I actually had to take notes so that I wouldn't get off on a too big of a tangent. My notes. No one is looking at this the right way. To solve the problem, to prevent suicide, we have to stop manipulating and mutilating the minds of our children. Flat out. If we continue down the path that we're on of just destroying our children's brains, then everybody is going to have mental illness. Everybody's going to be violent. Everybody's going to have issues. Nobody's going to be a functioning person. So we will be a society where this is getting more and more normalized. And it has become more normalized. We're just like, yeah, suicide happens, war happens, child abuse happens.
Here's the hotline number.
Yeah, that's not the fucking way to fix this.
Right. It's a reaction.
And I'm tired of scapegoats. Like, anti-anxiety medicines are not an excuse for committing suicide. Not for the person, but for a society of people to say, oh, well, they were on anti-anxiety medication and that probably made them commit suicide. No, we as a fucking people, we as a society and as parents and as friends, we failed.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said earlier, in the day, it's everybody wants that simple answer.
Well, why are so many people on medication? That's the question. It's because they have trauma, they have pain, because their minds were fucked up, and they haven't been able to get the help that they need. And some doctor was like, here, take some meds, it'll fix you. So the real issue, we have to stop abusing, neglecting, and fucking up our children. Like, you have to sit there. If you really want to do something that will prevent suicide, stop fucking making memes, stop posting about it, and make a commitment to stop mutilating the minds of children, whether it be your children, you know, the children you babysit, the children you see a few times a week, whatever it is. Make a commitment to help those children grow up to be functioning, healthy people. They need to learn emotional regulation. They need to learn, what's that thing that people do that are successful?
Lots
coping
of stuff.
mechanisms. They need to learn fucking coping mechanisms.
Coping mechanisms.
If we're not teaching our children coping mechanisms and emotional regulation, they are not going to grow up to be healthy people. They're going to grow up to be depressed, anxious, violent, unhappy, unsuccessful.
Right.
That is the stem of all the issues that plague our society. We wouldn't have war. We wouldn't have violence. We wouldn't have murderers and rapists and drug addicts and people committing suicide if people were taught how to handle their reality.
Yeah.
So how are we as a people supposed to even teach this to our children? Because we're so broken. Many adults have some kind of trauma, have some kind of pain in their life. Everybody has anxiety. Everybody has depression to some degree.
Sure.
And until we look in the mirror and fix our own shit, we're just going to continue perpetuating shit on our children. So first is commit to not mutilating the minds of our children. It's that fucking simple. Commit to growing healthy children.
I think I'm just going to speak because I said this to you yesterday or something. I'm becoming so much more aware of how I speak to the kids and how I react to them. And sometimes, like the other day, I said something to our daughter and you were like, well, maybe you should have said it this way. And then I went back and I talked to her and I corrected myself to make sure that she understood what I really meant and what I was trying to convey. And I probably should have thought about how I said it better.
Right.
And so now I've become more aware of what I'm saying to them and how I'm saying it to them because I don't want to fuck them up. I don't want to do anything wrong. It's hard, but I think you have to make that effort for the reasons that you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to make a difference, if you want to affect change in the world and make the world a better place, whatever the issue is, whether it be I want less violence, I want less hate, I want less racism, I don't want war, I want less climate change, I want, less suicide, less drug addiction. That all starts with how we raise our children and how we treat the children around us. Even if they're not your children, your nieces, your nephews, your friends' kids, whatever. Like, you can still have an impact. You could still say something that could either make or break their day.
True story.
And I say, simply stop mutilating the minds of children. It's not simple. It's a very hard thing to do. But the commitment and the perspective shift is simple.
Do you think
You see, I want the world to be different. I need to change.
Do you think just having an awareness is a good start?
Yeah, I think you have to realize that what you say to people, especially children, especially your own children, affects them. As parents, you are literally the center of a child's universe.
Yeah.
So if you're not building them up, you're not teaching them how to function, then who the fuck is? And what the fuck are you teaching them?
You're taking your words for granted. You're not even thinking about what you're saying. You're trying to think of the result you want to get.
Well, parenting is hard. And oftentimes you get stressed and there's a lot of shit that has to be done and they're fucking whining and you just want them to stop. And you'll say whatever you have to say to get them to stop crying or to stop whining or to stop fighting with their sibling. Like, I understand that it's hard. But there's a responsibility.
Well, there's a reason.
If you're just going to continue to tell them what they need to hear so that the situation that you're in is less stressful for you, that's not parenting.
Right.
That is failing your children and failing society.
That's selfish.
And it is selfish, but so many people don't even realize that they're too stressed out or they're too traumatized or in too much pain to even be able to come into parenting functioning. You know, most people, many people, I don't know everyone, I can't speak for it, but most of us are just fucking trying to get through life. And then when you throw kids into that, like, how many of us are really ready to have kids?
Yeah.
And how can anyone really be ready for that? Because it is so much work.
You think you're ready, and then the kid comes out, and you're like, oh, shit. And then the kid gets older, and you're like, oh, shit. That's what's happening to me. Every time the kids get older and they start asking more questions, I'm going, oh, my God, this is hard. Like, and to try to be able to be aware of what I'm saying to them and how they could possibly think about it and react and how it's going to affect them when they get older. I think about it constantly. Like, what is going to be the ripple effect of what I just said, or how I acted, or what happened this past week, or, you know, like.
Right. How many parents sit down and think about the things that they've said to their children today, this week, in their lifetime, and say, whoa, this is shaping their behavior. Like, if you don't like your child's behavior or attitude, it is a direct result of what you've done as a parent.
Right, because they don't know anything else.
Right.
You're their
the ego's
hub.
like, well, it's not my fault.
You're their hub. They're learning everything from you.
So that takes me to step 2.
Got it.
And I think also what you're pointing out is so important, that children are a great mirror. Children are going to show you what you need to fix within yourself. If your children are constantly making you angry and pissing you off, like most children do, then you have some anger issues that you need to deal with. If your children are so stressful and you are so anxious every time you try to do things with them, whatever that may be, then you have some anxiety that you need to deal with. Their actions are a catalyst for your healing. And until you see it that way, you're just going to continue to be in pain and spread that pain to your children. So step number 2 in my tangent of how to prevent suicide is to look in the fucking mirror and stop your own self-imposed manipulation. Stop abusing yourself and heal from your own trauma.
Yeah. I mean, you've pared it down, you've bottom lined it and said, this is what needs to happen. The work is hard, right? It's going to take a long time, but a constant effort will yield a result, right? Like, everybody wants a quick fix. Everybody wants a quick answer, right? Which is why we have the medication, and we have people on TV and radio and whatever saying that, oh, he was on anti-anxiety meds and that's why they ended up taking their own life. They want that quick answer. This is not a quick answer. It's a quick...
Well, and this is taking responsibility. Nobody wants to say that they did anything wrong or that they had any part in anybody else's suffering. Right. But we do. We are the one inflicting all of the suffering on ourselves and on other people. Right.
The bullet point you have there is a quick, short answer. You've bottom lined it, but it's a lot of work and a lot of thought.
Right. And the question is, do you really want to prevent suicide? And if you do, are you really willing to make the effort, or do you just want to make a meme about it?
Not just suicide, everything.
Right. You want world peace. You want less violence. You want less abuse. You want less murder, less, sexual assault and rape.
Bullying,
whatever the fuck you want. It starts with you and your children. And then once you've healed yourself and you're, teaching them how to act and grow and heal and become successful people, then you start reaching out to your community. How can I affect change in my community?
Healthy people
grow healthy people.
Grow healthy people just same way as traumatized people grow traumatized people.
Right.
So change the paradigm, right, is what you're saying. Basically.
Right. You have to change the way you see yourself and your children. And you have to change the way that you see the negativity that's in the world. Because if you look at suicide and all of these bad things or negative things that plague our society, and you're like, oh, those people are just going through some shit. No, it's not that. It's we as a people have failed each other. We've failed ourselves. We've failed our children. And we need to make a change. Yeah. Otherwise, we're just going to continue getting worse. We're going to continue traumatizing people. And, like I said, what happens when most of the people are traumatized or not functioning or not healthy or broken?
I think we're getting close to that.
I know,
not
that's
already.
What's terrifying.
I mean, there's not a lot of...
We just keep accepting. We accept the fact that there's violence. We accept the fact that there's war. We accept the fact that there's abuse. We accept the fact that children are being...
It's exactly as you said. The acceptance is in the memes and posting the National Suicide Hotline and saying things like thoughts and prayers are with the families.
These are all nice
Fucking
things
do
that
something.
make you
And
feel
it's not
better.
about having a march. It's not about making political change. It's not about any of that shit. It's about taking personal responsibility for yourself and your children.
And the children that you come in contact with.
Yeah. If you're a teacher, you're around kids every single day. You're around those kids just as much or more so than their own parents are.
Or even just friends. Like, I mean, when I take my kid to karate and I see a woman psychologically abusing her kids, what am I supposed to do? I just have to be... I feel like I'm a fucking accomplice to that because I'm not doing anything.
Bystander,
because I can't.
Yeah. Right.
So that takes us to the actual topic of today's episode.
You okay?
Aside from my tangent.
You
yes,
okay? All right.
I'm good.
What am I reading here?
Just this page.
Part that you've bracketed?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is another reading from our podcast Bible.
Well, I'm starting to... I was just reading through Reddit just now. It seems like everybody's Bible for complex PTSD. I mean, it's literally everybody's starting point. And it should be because it's a great book. By no means are we plugging this for Mr. Walker, Pete Walker. We're not getting paid or anything to do this. He probably doesn't even know that we're doing this. But it's a great book and I highly recommend it. Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving, Mr. Pete Walker.
And this is chapter 6.
This is the beginning of chapter 6, and this is the subject of today's episode. This is part 1, because we're going to break it up into 2 episodes, right?
Right. So we're talking about the 4 Fs, if you know anything about those. There's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. These are responses to trauma, but they're natural responses that we all have to danger in our lives. So we're going to talk about the first 2, which I'm pretty sure is fight and flight.
All right. So, chapter 6, what is my trauma type? This chapter describes a trauma typology for recognizing and recovering from the different types of CPTSD. We human beings respond with some variability to childhood trauma. This model elaborates 4 basic survival strategies and defensive styles that develop out of our instinctive fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses. Or survival responses.
Right, the responses your body has to danger.
Right. Variances in your childhood abuse or neglect pattern, birth order, and genetics result in you gravitating toward a specific 4F, that's his little term, survival strategy. You do this as a child to prevent, escape, or ameliorate further traumatization. Fight types develop a narcissistic-like defense. Flight types develop an obsessive-compulsive-like defense. Freeze types develop a dissociative-like defense. Fawn types develop a codependent-like defense. Interesting. Birth order and genetics.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And full disclosure, this is the first time I've read this chapter. I read it a little bit before we started this episode. And the reason I haven't read it is because at the beginning of the book, he does, give a short overview of what they are. And I was like, God, I feel like I have like all of these. And I don't know, I didn't really feel like I fit into any one category. And I think it also maybe brought up shit that I didn't want to deal with. So we're going to confront it today. We're going to talk about the first 2 on this episode, and then we'll talk about freeze and fawn next episode. But I want Pat to read the next page because it's for normal people.
Ooh, I'm normal. Apparently.
We're going to find out how normal you are, though.
I'm the most normal person in the room.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. You're pretty
fucking
fucking
normal.
normal.
What if more people have complex PTSD than have...
Then I'm not normal.
Yeah. What if I'm the new normal?
CPTSD is the new normal?
Sadly.
Sounds like a Netflix show. The whole bracketed part?
Just, yeah.
Both these pages?
No, just...
Just
wait.
this one page?
Does it carry over? Yeah. The
Okay.
whole bracketed part. You're getting a free chapter out of this book, people.
Son of a bitch. I don't know if Pete Walker's going to be too happy. Okay.
Well, it does have my commentary, so you have to put up with that.
Yeah. Okay. Healthy employment of the 4 Fs. People who experience quote unquote good enough parenting. Yeah, there we go. Bringing it full circle. People who experience good enough parenting in childhood arrive in adulthood with a healthy and flexible response repertoire to danger. In the face of real danger, they have appropriate access to all of their 4F choices. Easy access to the fight response ensures good boundaries, healthy assertiveness, and aggressive self-protectiveness if necessary. Untraumatized people also easily and appropriately assess their flight instinct and disengage and retreat when confrontation would exacerbate their danger. Untraumatized people also freeze appropriately to give up and quit struggling when further activity or resistance is futile and counterproductive. Additionally, the freeze response is sometimes our first response to danger as when we become still, quiet, and camouflage to buy time to assess the danger and decide whether fight, flight, continued freeze, or fawn is our best option. And finally, untraumatized people also fawn in a non-groveling manner and are able to listen, help, and compromise as readily as they assert and express themselves and their needs, rights, and points of view. A deeper elaboration of the origins of these 4 defenses is found below and in the next chapter. He's got like a chart.
Yeah. So get the book.
You want me to
follow along? No, just stop there for now. We'll
Okay.
talk about it. I think what's so interesting about this, and when I read it, I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever met anybody like what he's describing. Like, have I ever met anybody who has a balanced response with all 4 of the Fs?
No,
like,
yeah, I don't think I even do.
I don't think you do either. I think some of those are, I don't want to say lacking, but, not quite balanced.
No. And it's funny, when I was reading this, I was aware of what I lean towards, and I'm also aware that I am aware of that. It was in a strange way. Like, I know that I think I flight more than I fight, but I'm aware of that.
Right.
We've talked about that a little bit over the years.
Like he's saying, your birth order, you're a second child, and everybody says like, oh, first children act this way, second children act this way. It's very well documented that second children are much more, I'll just do whatever you want, or follow along with everybody else, and
Yeah.
roll over and let you kick me in the ass, like whatever you want. It's a spectrum, and I think everybody falls on that differently. But yeah, I've literally never met anybody who didn't have some kind of imbalance of their 4 Fs. So
I'm pretty good with fawn, I think.
Well, I think it's a really good chance for anybody, not people who've been diagnosed with complex PTSD,
Yeah, everybody.
but like
To
anybody can
assess how you are, yeah.
Yeah, assess your responses to your life and to danger and to what you perceive as danger.
Freeze is one that I think a lot of people need to work on. Freeze is very useful because you can, like he says, you can you become still, quiet, and camouflage to buy time to assess the danger and decide which technique you're going to go and use. I think I do that instinctively sometimes. So I just stop and I start thinking, okay, what do I need to do here? And I think it's when I first read that, it sounded like people do that when they see something happening in the street.
Right.
Somebody getting mugged or something. They're just going to stand there and watch and go,
I don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do. They freeze. And then they get stuck in that frozen space where they don't do anything. They don't fight. They don't flight. They don't, nothing.
Yeah.
But nowadays they just whip the phone out and yell things like, World Star.
Yeah, I guess. What's that?
World Star? It's video clips of people fighting each other in the street.
Oh, well, that sounds positive.
A fight breaks out and people just take videos of it and post it online. And
yeah, that seems like a really healthy societal response.
it definitely is. Get with the program, lady. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
You want me to read the next chunk here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do go on.
I will go
you?
on. And those who are repetitively traumatized in childhood often learn to survive by overusing one or two of the 4F responses. Fixation in any one 4F response not only limits our ability to access all the others, but also severely impairs our ability to relax into an undefended state. Interesting.
So this is where like hypervigilance comes in, and where people who have CPTSD and even PTSD often feel just fucking on edge all the time.
Okay. Where was I? Additionally, it strands us in a narrow, impoverished experience of life. Over time, a habitual 4F defense also serves, quotes, to distract us from the nagging voice of the critic and the painful feelings that underlie it. Preoccupation with 4F behaviors dulls our awareness of our unresolved past trauma and the pain of our current alteration. And there's a chart, and it compares the harmful behaviors of each defensive structure.
Which you're going to have to buy the book.
You're going to have to buy the book. Real or imagined danger typically triggers us into these roles and behaviors when we are in an emotional flashback.
Your face. I'm not laughing at the book.
Yeah.
Book sucks. Pat's face is funny. So I want to note that...
How much of this do you want me to read?
We're going to read a lot and talk
Okay.
about it. Jesus, this is an episode of lots of information.
Okay.
So whenever he uses the word critic, he's not talking about like hecklers or whatever, or like movie reviewers. He's talking about...
Yourself?
Right. It's a voice in your head. It's usually a conditioned voice that mimics your abuser. So for me, it's like all the shit that my dad used to say, like, you're not enough, you're not worthy, you're a manipulative bitch, like, you're whatever. It's like this, for those of you not familiar with the book, if you're familiar with the book, then you understand his use of the word critic. But it's just that little voice in your head that kind of feels like, at first, when you're not really aware of your conditioning, it feels like you, it sounds like you. But it's not you. It's your conditioning. It's your abuser. It's your trauma.
Wow.
It's the way that your mind perpetuates the self-hate and the pain that you had as a kid or adolescence or whenever the fuck you were traumatized.
Interesting. So
that's what he means by the critic.
Okay.
So we're going to go on to the very first one, which is fight. And I have honestly not met a whole lot of people who live here, except for my dad and probably most of the people in his family. This is kind of like, this is how narcissists are born. Sociopaths are born this way. It's kind of scary, because...
You saying he's constantly in fight mode?
Yeah, I mean, I don't look at my dad and go, oh, he's just a horrible sociopathic narcissist. I look at my dad and I see an abuse victim. My dad's not healthy. He's not healed. It's not that he's a bad guy. It's that he has been shaped into this narcissist by narcissists. And so that's what we're about to learn about, which is the fight mechanism.
Okay. Right here? Is that where I go? Or is it a different... She needs to thumb through her pages and tell me which brackets to read.
Okay, yeah, you can read that. This is just an overview of all 4 of the types.
We just did that.
Yeah, we don't need to do that. So just go here.
Go here?
Yeah.
All right, the fight type and the narcissistic defense. Fight types are unconsciously driven by the belief that power and control can create safety, assuage abandonment, and secure love. Children who are spoiled, pause.
I think that first sentence is really telling.
Unconsciously driven by the belief that power and control can create safety and assuage abandonment and secure love.
Right. I see a lot of people who are in recovery of complex PTSD, and they are putting narcissists down, and they are hating their abuser, and they are blaming the pain and the evil that narcissists have inflicted upon them, which is totally understandable.
Sure.
Not justifying anything a narcissist has ever done to you.
Right.
But I think it's important and beneficial to healing to know that narcissists, too, are just acting out pretty much the same thing that everybody else is acting out. They just want to heal, they don't want to heal, but part of them is broken.
Yeah,
they need to feel safe too, just like everyone else, and they just happen to be going about it a much more aggressive way.
So that
than the other four.
I remember
the other 3 Fs.
you had a you had a hard time with that. I had a hard time with that, trying to understand how you were going to reconcile what had happened to you with your father. Like how, I remember that being a big topic of like, I'm not going to forgive him, but I'm not going to not forgive him. Right. I was like, how the fuck are you supposed to feel better about what happened? It's like you don't want to make it okay.
Right.
But you can't carry it around with you all the time.
Because then you can't heal. And if you're constantly blaming them and rehashing all the things they've done to you. It's not helping. It's not helping.
Though it's justified.
It is totally justified. And honestly, I spent a good 3 years.
That's where it gets hard.
Fucking pissed. You know?
Yeah.
My issue was, it wasn't reconciling or making it okay. It was the fact that my dad was never held responsible for the abuse and the neglect.
Right,
like
that's
it was
right.
just all okay because I never got physically hit. There were no bruises, there were no broken bones. So my dad got away completely scot-free.
Right.
And that was what is and was so hard for me to deal with.
I remember you being so angry that there was no consequence. There was nothing you could do. You couldn't. Did you even think about like legal action? I don't remember. I want to say
all the ways of holding my abuser responsible like any normal person would.
Yeah.
But I finally realized that, I can tell them my story. I'm writing a book about it. People will know Phil.
Yeah.
People are going to know what my dad really is because I'm going to speak about it.
I'm going to ask a question and I don't know how you're going to answer it. And I'm just curious because I made a link to what's going on in culture right now. People are being exposed now. Right. They're being exposed for their sexual assault, their sexual abuse. They're being exposed for their racism.
Yeah.
Is it helpful?
Me too. My fucking dad was, he was so great when people were around. He put on a good front like any good sociopathic narcissist. And behind closed doors, he just completely mutilated my mind.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and honestly, that was
he got away with it.
That was a big problem with it. That alone created something between you and I.
Right.
That made a problem with us because it was the same. He would be a one way around me and another way around you. And it made me at the time skeptical if I was going to use the right word.
Right.
I was like, I didn't never say it out loud. I was never like, no.
Right.
But in my brain, I was like,
whether or not he was actually abusive.
Yeah, I was like, is he really?
He was really as bad as I said.
I mean, everybody hates their parents on some level, but like, is it that bad? Like, and I had to deal with that. And
I think you really didn't know until I went into the mental hospital and he went nuts. And
right. And he would call me and all kinds of shit. And he found my doctor. Yep.
Found the hospital. I don't know how he found the hospital I was in.
Right. I'm learning that's a normal thing. Not normal, but that's a thing that they do.
Yeah. He actually got a hold of my therapist and left my therapist emails and voicemails saying, like, I shit you not, my dad was like, there are two sides to every story, and I just want to make sure that you hear my side because she's going to, skew things to her perspective. And my therapist was like, oh my God, this guy is fucking nuts. Like, my therapist flat out said, your dad's an asshole. I'm diagnosing him as a fucking narcissist, probably a sociopath. Like, this is crazy. Like, who does this? Phil does this. He's insane.
So I remember a couple of specific examples of times when I had a great teacher in school once say, you got to push the I believe button.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I remember making that decision saying, I wasn't there. I've never seen him act this way. This is before you went in.
Right.
I just had to go, okay, I got to push this I believe button.
And this is even after you've seen him, like me on the phone with him and him make me cry in public.
Right.
Yeah.
I just had to push the I believe. I had already fucked up.
He's so good at manipulating
He is. And so I pushed the I believe button, and then sure as shit, when you went into the hospital the first time,
he revealed
who he really was, and the only person he could really talk to was me easily.
When he reached out to
and
your
parents. I had to explain to him, and I had to say, look, man, it doesn't matter what you think.
Yeah.
How she perceives her life is what we're dealing with now. It's not about
And
what you think.
That brings up such a wonderful point about narcissists and healing, because it's so easy to say, oh, all of my pain is caused by this narcissist, but I know this is such a horrible thing to say, they're fucking people too.
They are.
They had shit happen to them, and for me, being able to look at my dad, well, I don't really like to look at him, but being able to think about my dad and think about the things that he's done to me and be like, oh my God, he's just like me. He's a victim. It sucks. And it's a weird justification. It's not like making it okay, but it's a perspective change. It's a change in the way I saw him.
Right. Which is, I think, how you get to that point from what we said earlier about how you can't make it okay because it's not okay.
But you can't hold on to it forever. And you can't blame them forever.
I think that's where you start to be able to find that middle ground, where you start to understand that, yeah, they're a person too, and they were traumatized too, and it's not making anything okay, but...
Right. So if you have been abused by a narcissist, then listen up, because I really think that this could be an opportunity for you to change your perspective on... And just have a moment of compassion.
Yep.
Like, they're fucking people too.
God knows they're not going to get there.
Yeah. They're not going to change.
You're not going to force them to get there.
But you can change your view on the situation, which is to recognize that, they're in just as much pain as you are. And that's what this talks about.
All right. Let's
continue on hearing about the kind of pain that narcissists
was one
live in.
sentence, folks. All right. Here we go. Children who are spoiled and given insufficient limits, a uniquely painful type of abandonment, can become fight types. Children who are spoiled and given insufficient limits can become fight types.
Yeah, if you give them everything they've ever wanted to make them shut up so you don't have to deal with them. It's a different way. Either as an abusive parent, you're trying to get your kid to submit and to be subdued and to leave you the fuck alone. So either you do that by breaking them down mentally so that they're sad and alone and quiet, or you do it by giving them everything they've ever wanted so that they'll shut up and stop asking you for stuff.
And he says this is a uniquely painful type of abandonment, and it's an abandonment because you're not engaging. You're just saying, yeah,
them
whatever.
What they actually need. Toys, TV, candy. That's not parenting.
Right. Got it. Children who are allowed to imitate the bullying of a narcissistic parent may also develop a habitual fight response. Numerous fight types start out as older siblings who overpower their younger siblings, just as their parent overpowers them. Interesting.
It's all about control.
Here we go. Next page. Fight types learn to respond to their feelings of abandonment with anger. Many use contempt, a poisonous blend of narcissistic rage and disgust, to intimidate and shame others into mirroring them. Narcissists treat others as if they are extensions of themselves. The entitled fight type commonly uses others as an audience for his incessant monologuing. He may treat a, quote, captured, freeze, or fawn type as a slave in a dominance-submission relationship. The price of admission to a relationship with an extreme narcissist is self-annihilation. One of my clients quipped, quote, narcissists don't have relationships, they take prisoners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
you
that's
were a
what
prisoner.
my whole life with Phil was like. It just felt like prison.
Side note, if you can hear barking in the background, that is our dog. He's downstairs.
Really wants to be in this room.
He wants to be in this room.
He has PTSD.
He probably does. He probably does.
He doesn't like being away from us.
Yeah,
so.
he's fine. He'll be all right. Today, he just, for whatever reason, wants to bark.
So I do want to offer the light at the end of it. Why do I keep saying that? There's always a light at the end of a tunnel with
Come
me.
up with
so
a better...
fucking optimistic.
Why are you so...
Who am I?
You can be optimistic.
So the light at the end of the tunnel of this episode, I want to, tell you what these the 4 Fs, I want to tell you what they are, but I also want to talk more about healing now, because it's really easy to say, oh yeah, that's me, and then to get lost in, oh, it happened because of this, and oh, my parents did that, or oh, I was
especially with a narcissist, right? You just want to get into that blame cycle. There's so much victimizing
yourself,
yep.
And I don't want people to get stuck in that cycle. I want you to, not necessarily label yourself, but understand where you lay on this spectrum, and then be like, okay, now I know where to heal.
Now I know. What can I do?
So we're going to go to the healing part of this.
Where's that? Is it the next brackets?
Yeah.
All right. Recovering from a polarized fight response. I agree with the widely held notion that extreme narcissists and sociopaths are untreatable. Wow.
I don't know if I agree with that, but...
That, man.
I think it's very hard. I mean...
Fucking Pete, just laying it out.
I like to believe that anybody can change if given the right...
circumstances and support.
The right circumstances.
They have to be there themselves, though.
It has to be in their mind.
Yeah.
And I think for narcissists to change, they have to take on responsibility for all that they've done and realize, like, my dad has to look in the mirror and say, holy shit, this fictional idea of who I am isn't real, and I've committed all of these horrible acts. And that's why most narcissists are unable to do that, because it completely destroy their psyche.
Right.
Yeah, you can't, they can't take responsibility for what they've done, so they can't heal from it.
That would be the opposite of a narcissist, right?
What would be the opposite of a narcissist?
They all of a sudden realized.
They became an anti-narcissist?
yeah, like, in order to not be a narcissist, you kind of have to be the opposite of a like, their bread and butter is denying what's going on with themselves, so how would they even pull out of it? That's probably why he doesn't believe they can be fixed.
Well, so theoretically, they can be fixed. It's possible. It just doesn't. It just doesn't happen very often. Like, I don't think Phil will ever change. Phil's going to be Phil forever. Phil is going to be.
That's not. Yeah.
He is going to be the best person in his mind in the world for the rest of his life, unless something devastatingly magical happens, and I have no idea what could possibly do that. So theoretically, it is possible to change.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen very often, in my humble opinion.
Ooh, IMHO.
Yeah.
All right. Typically,
I don't like no. When people say no, it's kind of like challenge accepted. Like, it can happen.
Maybe that's just your trauma.
It probably is. Or my personality, where I'm like, fuck you, I'm going to make it so.
Well, either way. Typically, narcissists, they are convinced that they themselves are perfect and that everyone else is the problem. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like, they're not going to pull out of it because they think they're perfect already.
Yeah,
so then why would they
change that idea?
Right. And then what's going to... No, fuck. I'm good. Good to go.
Why change a good thing?
Why change a good thing? Fight types who are not true narcissists, however, true narcissists, benefit from understanding the costly price they pay for controlling others with intimidation, criticism, and sarcasm. That's where you have to walk that line, when you have to really... I'm tangenting myself here because that's what I think about sometimes when I talk to the kids. I'm sarcastic as fuck when I talk to the kids, and I try to teach our kids what sarcasm is, and sometimes I think I take it too far, and I catch myself, and I go, oh shit.
I'm a real asshole.
I'm a dick, right? And then I start thinking, oh my God, I'm going to fuck him up, and it's going to get bad. And so I backpedal, and I start talking to him about it, and I say, hey.
You're better than 90% of the parents at Walmart.
I hope you're right, because like I said, I become so aware of what I'm talking about, and I go, oh, I'm fucking my kids up, and I don't want to fuck them up. I want them to be happy and healthy.
Well, you're not a narcissist, so that's good.
Fuck, it's stressful. And then I'm like, well, I like being sarcastic sometimes, and I don't want to...
All things in balance.
All things in balance.
If you're giving children, if you're teaching them coping mechanisms, if you're teaching them emotional regulation, you're giving them your presence, your love, your affection, then they're not going to take it that way. They're going to be healthy, full people, and it's not going to bring them down. The issue is when you don't teach your children to be healthy, functioning people, and then you abuse them in some way, or they get abused in some way.
Right.
That's when psyches break.
All right.
That's why I'm overly nice to my children. Like, people are like, oh, parenting advice, don't tell your children they do great all the time. Fuck that. I tell my children they do great all the time because the rest of the world is going to tell them otherwise.
Well, and then I come back at them with the hard work thing. I've learned that that's a really good one, just to promote hard work. Ah, you did really good work there. That must have been difficult. You know?
Yeah.
Every day when I drop them off at school, I say, work hard, pay attention, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I tell them constructive things, but I
Do your
still
best.
try to fill their bucket, because if we don't fill their bucket, who's going to?
Right.
The whole world's going to strip them down. I got to at least fill them up with something.
Right, that's right.
And
where
that's
was
how
I? You
know neither of us are narcissists.
Thank God. Oh. All right. Some who I worked with eventually saw how their aggressive behavior scared away their potential intimates. Interesting. One survivor also realized that although her partner stayed, he was so afraid and resentful of her demandingness and irritability that he could not manifest the warmth or real liking that she so desperately desired. Whoa. I have also helped a number of fight types understand the downward spiral of power and alienation that comes from being over-controlling. It looks like this. Ready? This is his example. Excessive use of power triggers a fearful emotional withdrawal in the other, which makes the fight type feel even more abandoned. Let me read that again.
That's what I hate about this
Wait,
stuff.
wait. Let me read that again. Excessive use of power by who? The narcissist?
Yes.
Okay. Excessive use of power triggers a fearful emotion withdrawal in the other person.
Right,
So
and
they're
your partner
scared.
or your friend or your child.
Right. They're scared. They start to withdraw.
And then you feel even more alone or abandoned, which triggers you because you were abandoned as a
Which
child.
makes the narcissist or fight type feel even more abandoned.
Right.
Because at the core of them, they feel abandoned, which makes them a narcissist fight type, right?
No.
I'm confused.
I think at the core of anyone with complex PTSD, they feel abandoned. What makes a flight type a flight type? What makes a
fight
narcissist?
type.
Right, that's the one. What makes a narcissist is their inability. It's like a sociopath. Their inability to empathize with other people.
He's talking about fight types who are not true narcissists.
Right. So that's just.
So
that would be your F. Your trauma has made you more aggressive, more outwardly dominant. Instead of taking your pain out on yourself, you start taking it out on other people.
Right, which makes the other people pull away from you, which ultimately makes you feel more abandoned.
Right.
That's what he's saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what I hate about, and the reason that I never looked further into the 4 Fs was because I have characteristics of all of these Fs. Like, that is something that happens to me all the time. Like, I'm a huge bitch to you.
Sure.
And then you just pull away. And I've like even conditioned you to just leave me alone.
I read this one line and I was like, oh God.
That's my wife.
That's my wife. Like, one survivor realized that although her partner stayed, he was so afraid and resentful of her demandingness and irritability that he could not manifest the warmth or real liking that she so desperately desired.
And you're like, always wow, that's the story of my life.
I was like, oh shit. Like, sometimes you tell me like, you want me to be more, what's the word you always say?
Around. I do want you to be around more.
No, well, I'm working on that. That's a different thing. It's like affectionate, and I try to be, but I don't think that I'm affectionate in the way that you need me to be. And
there's a difference in showing affection and grabbing somebody's ass.
I'm trying, but then there's truth to that. I'm afraid and resentful slightly of your demandingness and irritability, but it's not your fault, so I don't fault you for that. And then it just makes
Patty Face is like mind fucking himself right now.
I am, and I'm good at it.
Well, the issue is that when I traumatized you in our past, like 4 or 5 years ago, and before that even, I was a different person before I started healing. And now we're facing all these issues that I conditioned you to act a certain way towards me, but I'm not that person anymore. So
I'll just turn it off. That's fine.
Yeah, so that's welcome to being in a relationship with me. Now it's like you're still in a relationship with a person that I was before trauma or before healing, and we're trying to get you back or whatever. Undo that.
Hey, but we're aware, and that's step one. Wow. So so the excessive use of power, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, I used to do that all the time. Like, I always made you scared of me.
Which makes you, so in turn, he becomes more outraged, the fight response person, not the other person.
But let's just be clear. I don't have a lot of rage. Like,
no.
I don't get angry at people and scream and throw things.
Well,
like,
at least not outwardly.
Inwardly, yes. I was taught from a very young age to subdue my emotions, and until about 2 years ago, I couldn't even feel anger.
Oh yeah.
Or express it.
No.
So
I think
number one reason why I'm not a fight is because I can't express anger.
Something that I always think kind of
like I can't even physically scream.
I was gonna say you can't even get in the car. Sometimes I get so angry I get in the car by myself. I just shout as loud as I can.
Such a healthy thing to do.
Or you might go outside and punch something or kick a ball or
less
physically
healthy.
show some anger.
When you're punching things, less healthy, but.
But if it's, but she can't even do that. She can't get in the car by herself. No one else is around. I'm pretty sure you could be on a mountaintop thousands of miles away from anybody else. And you'd be like,
I spent 6 months in therapy,
so
and what she tried to do was to get me to make a sound. Like I had this like foam bat, and I had to hit
I did the foam bat too.
Okay, but I did it for 6 months.
I was still embarrassed, but I did it.
It wasn't about embarrassment. I physically couldn't make myself like hit something and make a sound.
Yeah.
Like I physically couldn't do it for so long.
She doesn't even shout across the house.
Yeah, my yelling is like a gently raised voice. I was yelled at a lot, and I was forced not to show emotions. So that's like the perfect cocktail of me not being a fight.
I'm getting back to this because I'm really into this section.
Oops.
What did you drop?
I dropped my crystal. Do go on.
Are you all right?
I have more. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. Totally fine. Okay. So in turn, he's talking about the fight person becomes more outraged and contemptuous, which then further distances his quote intimate partner. This once again increases the fight type's rage and disgust, which then creates increasing distance with the withholding of warmth ad infinitum. So just going and going and going forever and ever. You dropped it again.
Well, I have more still, but
how many more do you have before we have to stop the podcast and go hunting for your crystals? Jesus.
That won't happen.
All right. Fight types benefit from learning to redirect their rage toward the awful childhood circumstances that caused them to adopt such an intimacy-destroying defense.
So I think in healing from complex PTSD, and the more you break these things down, you realize that the number one thing that you need to do to heal is to change your perspective.
Right.
You need to look at yourself and your abuser and your pain and your suffering differently.
You can't do that alone, can you? I mean, you can't just...
You can, but it's
try.
much easier to do when your therapist is like, look at this differently.
Right, which is why you got to have a good therapist, somebody that can look at you and say...
And that's why I'm doing
raise the bullshit flag.
Because I want to help people see the places that they can change their perspective. And if you are a fight person, this is what you do. You change your perspective, like he just said.
Right.
Do go on.
I'm just going to move that thing. You're just... Yeah.
I'm not a natural mic speaker, okay?
No, it's okay.
This is just who I am. You're going to have to accept me.
I know.
I move a lot.
Maybe I'll put...
I'm a quiet talker.
I'll put like 4 microphones in front of you so that no matter which way you turn your head...
I could have a microphone helmet. It could follow me around.
I could get you a mic that stays on your face. Yeah.
Yeah.
A face mic.
Yeah. Okay.
I could. It could make you wear one. Oh, where was I? You made me lose my spot. Okay. Rage towards the awful childhood circumstances that cause them to adopt such an intimacy-destroying defense. This can help them to deconstruct their habits of of instantly morphing abandonment feelings into rage and disgust. This can help them deconstruct their habits of instantly morphing abandonment feelings into rage and disgust.
He's essentially saying that you need to shift your paradigm. Instead of instantly going into anger mode about whatever's pissing you off in that moment, you need to see that, hey, my kid's pissing me off. The Patriots are pissing me off. My dad used to yell at the TV screen all the time, not about the Patriots because we're from the South. But anyway, and he would like throw shit at the TV. Like he was a fucking rageaholic. But that's not what really was making him mad. Like, what is really making you mad is the fucked up way you were treated as a kid or as an adolescent or whenever you were traumatized. So deep down there,
you don't even realize.
You don't register it. But what happens is your rage becomes an emotional flashback. Somebody cuts you off and all of the rage that you have from being abandoned, neglected, abused, whatever, comes back into your body and your heart races and you're fucking pissed and you can rip stuffy off of its body, like it could be
stuffy off of its body,
like a stuffed animal rip its head off.
Disembowel.
I was trying to come up with something that wasn't really dark and morbid. I'm not gonna do that again. I'll just continue with my morbid analogies.
All right. Yeah, just.
But that's what he's saying. He's saying that your rage is an opportunity to see this as an emotional flashback.
Got it. Okay. As the recovering fight type becomes more conscious of his abandonment feelings, he can learn to release his fear and shame with tears. Cry it out.
One of my therapists suggested I go to Goodwill and I buy a bunch of cheap plates and cups, go in my basement or my garage and just start smashing them.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I said earlier, I would express my anger.
I hate wasting, so I can't do that.
Getting in the truck.
It is appealing,
Yeah.
Catharsis.
There are places where you can pay to
Healthy
do that.
outlets.
You can go and you can smash shit.
Right.
And just, that's what
And I think if you're going to go to therapy for this, that is something you really need to find. And I think you should do it with a therapist. Like, you don't want
smash some plates?
Yeah. I should be a therapist of that. That would be so fun. And then we could turn the smash plates into like mosaics afterwards, and it would be like a full circle healing experience.
Art therapy.
Yeah, it's basically...
Take your rage and anger and turn it into art therapy and bring them around. But don't you have to be in that anger, rage moment for that to really count?
Oh, yeah, but you can bring that up easily. You just start talking about Phil.
Right, okay. So, yeah, for somebody like you,
Phil's
for me, it would be a little more difficult.
There's Patty Face is a normal. Phil is going to be your abuser. That's what we're going to do now.
It's the podcast normal words. People are going to have to, yep. So, so for me, it would be a little more difficult, right? You're not going to get me to that rage state because I don't have all the trauma.
You don't get angry quickly. I get angry now that I feel my anger. I can get there real quick.
So I remember you said you had a hard time crying, but I never witnessed you have a difficult time crying. Because he says that. I mean, he says release all the fear and shame with tears. And I remember you saying, "Well, I don't cry," and I was like, "Well, I've seen you cry a fuck ton."
I cry in like Hallmark commercials, like when they really have done studies about how to make you feel emotional.
I mean, and even
when I'm pregnant, I cry a lot when I'm pregnant. But no, I think there's a difference because whenever you're crying about your past trauma, you've spent so many years and hours and minutes holding that shit back, bottling it up, and not feeling a connection to it.
When you cry, you're feeling that connection to it.
Right. That's the healing part, is that you're connecting to it. And I'm sure there are many steps in between realizing that my anger is an emotional flashback and then crying it out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there's countless steps in between there.
You remember that time I cried for like an hour?
No. Probably blacked that out too because I don't like emotions.
Yeah, you probably blacked it out. You were pretty cold. We were in the car and then we like stopped at like Barnes and Noble, and you left me and the kids in the car and got a book, and I was just a wreck. But my point,
I wasn't allowed to cry when I was a kid.
My point in saying that was that I couldn't help it. It had to come out.
Right, and then you always feel better afterwards.
You do. You feel better.
Like, when do you ever cry and not feel so much better afterwards?
Man, I was fucked that day, and it came out, and I think I did feel better. It was probably the longest I've cried in a row
Consecutively,
continuously,
uh-huh,
then you might cry for 5 minutes. This was long as shit. I mean, it was rough, but my point is, I was able to do it easily.
right?
It just welled up, and I had to let it out.
I often
and it kept
feel
coming,
the need
and
to cry, and I just can't let it out.
When I get to the point where I don't feel any shame in crying.
Like, I start to feel like I need to cry about something, whether it be like something that made me sad or angry in my past, and then maybe I'll get tears in my eyes, and then I'll have that automatic conditioned response of like, nope, bottle it up, don't feel, and then I feel numb, and I just can't cry.
Right, you have told me that before, is that you have had moments where you want
stuff,
to cry,
like,
and you're like, I should be crying.
The hero getting the medal in the end, or like whatever the fuck movies you're supposed to be happy and cry about. Like,
I got the medal.
They didn't die. Like, I can cry at that stuff, but like when it comes to confronting my past, and I have a lot of anger. I just don't let it out in the way that a fight person would.
Okay, so let's keep going here.
And don't feel bad if there are a lot of steps for you in between realizing it's a flashback, connecting to it with that way, and then crying it out. Like, there's going to be a lot of work there.
So as the recovering fight type with tears, I have helped several fight types by guiding them to cry to release their hurt, rather than always polarizing to angering it out. Yeah. When we are hurt, part of us is sad and part of us is mad. And no amount of angering can ever metabolize our sadness.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever
That's a great one to teach kids.
Yeah.
It really is.
I mean, we need to find, our son,
he
gets fucking angry all the time. He's always angry.
Well,
and we've cycled through all the things to try to help him confront shit, and I don't fucking know. Like, I just don't have that kind of. It's like his first response to anything is to get mad, and I don't know how to fix that.
I don't either. I'm working on it.
But I think this is something really valuable to take to your therapist. I try asking
him how he feels. I try asking him, okay, are you angry? Are you sad? Are you, what is it that you're feeling? Why is this your first response? Yeah. Talking to a 5-year-old.
Right. Well, and it's a great question to ask yourself. If you think that you might be a flight or have those tendencies, like where I have some of those tendencies, that's what you need to say. Why am I mad right now? Like, am I mad because my son spilled dinner, or am I mad because every time I spilled dinner when I was a kid, I got my ass beat or yelled at for 6 hours? Like,
or is it just the way I'm expressing this?
Yeah. Is this triggering something or reminding me of something? Or have I just been in a really stressed out state all day where this is the final straw?
You want to know something that makes me cry every single time?
In the Arms of the Angels by Sarah McLachlan.
God damn, every time. No.
In the arms.
Nope. Don't let her do it. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Fly away from me.
You've made your debut.
It was just ruined by that, like, animal commercial, you know? Like, I liked the song before that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so what makes me cry every single time, and it's kind of a relevant thing. Okay, stop. Oh, my God. The movie Inside Out.
Yeah.
Because
that's rough.
Spoiler alert. You need to go see it, but...
Spoiler alert, we watched that in the mental hospital so that we could talk about emotion regulation.
Did you really?
Yeah.
It worked. I mean, it's relevant. I mean, it comes down... I don't want to say too much, but let's just say sadness plays a huge role in it.
You don't want to give away the movie? You can give away the movie. I think most of our viewers, listeners, all 1,000 of our podcast listeners probably...
10,000.
Have either seen it or aren't going to see it.
Okay. Well, yeah, it comes down to sadness, and that's exactly what we're talking about. She realized, the character goes through this whole thing, and the only thing that can really kind of make it better, fix it, in a way, I'm being really short here, but is sadness.
Right.
And that's the part every single time that makes me cry. is when they realize that it's
You're
sadness.
such a beautiful example of allowing boys and men to cry. Like, I just want to know how beautiful that is right now.
Who, me?
Yeah, because you're just so openly talking about crying and how, like, you literally have no inhibitions about saying that you are a man and that you cry. And that is beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Do go on.
But that's the part that makes me cry every single time, is when she realizes that sadness, she has to cry it out. And that sadness is a part of the healing.
One of the
She's just angry that her parents took her from home and moved her across the country to San Francisco.
And the anger was really sadness on a deeper level, right?
Right. All of it. And they had to let sadness come out and be a part of it. And that's the part that gets me every time.
Trying to subdue sadness. And that's what we all do. We try to subdue our real feelings, our real hurt.
Yeah.
Because,
it's okay to be sad.
So one of the healers that I like to follow on YouTube, she talks about this, and she says that you can't let emotions go. A lot of emotions like anger, shame, disgust, guilt, fear, you can't let them go until you let them sit with sadness. And she brought up the same exact video clip, basically, of, going to sit with the little character of sadness. And until you let your feelings or yourself sit with that, you can't let it pass. It's just going to continue plaguing you.
Yeah.
So I think we should just do one for this episode.
You want to do just one? How much time have we done?
We're at a minute or an hour, 5 minutes. So
wow.
Yeah, we talk a lot. So maybe we'll just
we'll just do one. We'll break it up into a 4-parter, maybe.
Yeah, we'll just see how long it takes. I mean, I did go on that tangent, so.
Yeah.
But there are 3 more types, and then he also does a brief description on like hybrid types. And he uses your favorite word, spectrum, because I think very few people just fit into one of these types. And for me, I see myself or aspects of myself in all of them, and maybe that's just a normal human response to like compare yourself, but it's all knowledge, it's all information. You're going to hear it. You're going to hear perspective shifting information, and you're going to hear practical ways to deal with these issues. So I don't want people to get hung up on like, I need to be this type, or I need to identify and label myself. And no, just listen to what this guy advises. You can listen to what I advised, or you cannot. That's totally up to you.
Remember, we're not qualified for any of this. So.
Right.
Except for life experience.
Right. But yeah, I suggest getting the book. You can follow along with us. If you have thoughts on this, like, if you've already gone through this process, if you've already identified where you fall on the spectrum and, sat through some of these things you need to sit through, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. And
we got our first email. That was awesome.
We did.
So email us your comments, questions, concerns. What's the email, Pat?
complexities.podcast@gmail.com.
And we have social media, Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm. I haven't figured out the Pinterest yet.
Yeah,
for
we're having
whatever
trouble
reason.
like linking it, but it's there.
It's somewhere. I can't. I tried searching.
I've been
for
sharing
it,
links on the Facebook page too about stuff that we talk about.
I think that's a little easier.
Yeah, everybody knows. Most people know how to use Facebook. So, and I'm on Instagram a lot because it's an easy way to shut my brain down.
Our Instagram is at Complexities Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you want to try a new segment this week? We're kicking around ideas for new segments.
Not new segments, just other things to talk
Just
about.
other things to bring up.
Pat feels like we should break up the conversation. I don't know what that means. Maybe he's trying to break up with me.
Definitely.
It would make sense.
No.
Given our history.
Nah.
I don't know. We were kicking around the idea of weekly wins where we talk about things
Something
that we
positive, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think everything's positive. It's just a matter of perspective. I don't know. I mean, I can track things that I do that I win at. Like today, I ate all my breakfast. I feel good about that.
Good. I'll call that a win.
Yeah, but I mean, it's only 11:37, so there's still time for me to eat lunch. So weekly win. What have you won at this week?
Oh man.
You did a really big project.
I did?
Yeah, you redid the kitchen floor.
Oh, I did. Yeah, that's my win. Not the kitchen floor, but the fact that I got motivated quite a bit this week. Really. Like,
and followed through with the motivation.
That's what I'm saying, is follow through with the motivation. It was like, all right, I got to do the floor in the kitchen, knock that shit out in one day. I got to go to the base and take care of some paperwork stuff, knock that shit out. I fucking mowed the lawn. I vacuumed out the car and the truck. Like,
another thing that we were thinking about bringing into the podcast, we found out that there's like a huge forum on Reddit.
There's a few of them.
About complex PTSD and surviving narcissists and all the fun things that we talk about here.
That's where we actually got our first email from, was a guy from Reddit.
Yeah, we have a wonderful friend who shared the first podcast on Reddit, so thank you.
Yeah, he shared it under the CPTSD subreddit. It's just, I think it's just CPTSD.
But I think that is a really good place for when I personally stop running out of ideas. You know, I'm going to go there and see what people are talking about. Maybe answer questions that we find that if people are asking things that I've already faced or confronted, if I have answers, you know, maybe I'll try to go check that out. I don't really like forums. Honestly, full disclosure, I make Pat read the forums because it's a hard line to walk, because she wants me to read them to her, but she doesn't want me to read them to her. Well, I have trouble hearing other people's trauma without like taking it on.
Well, even the email we got
connected to it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that wasn't bad. But I do have a tendency when people are just like, when other people have so much negativity with their words and their posts and their thoughts, it's really hard for me to not let that
I could imagine,
affect me in some way.
Sure. And I'm sensitive to that.
Everybody is, But
I mean,
what
makes it hard is that we want to talk about it.
To decide where,
how much
I can
take
on and what I can't.
Yep.
So we'll figure it out. But I did really enjoy hearing from a listener and finding out. He asked a really serious question that is an episode idea that I already had. So I'm excited about doing that episode and talking about the subject that he brought up, which was how to love yourself and how to love other people after trauma.
That's a tough one.
And that's definitely something that I've struggled with a lot.
Oh, sure.
It's like one of those big questions. So all things to look forward to, more about your 4 Fs and about love.
Yeah.
What is love?
You've been singing this whole time, huh? You're in a singing mood.
I guess.
All right. We done?
I think so.
I think it's pretty good. We got to clean the house. My parents are coming. It's going to be good.
All the things.
And then we're going to post this later this week. Rock and
Vocal
roll.
fry? No, that was Upspeak.
Oh, yeah. Upspeak?
Yeah.
Post things this week?
Oh, my God.
Make a new podcast?
We're going to leave people alone now.
Yeah, you've gotten the vocal fry under control.
All right. That's enough. Fuck Phil?
Is that the sign off?
Yeah.
All right, well, do it again.
I did it with the Upspeak. It was great. It was like a question.
Fuck Phil?
Fuck Phil?